This show is a production of the Best in Tabletop Network. Be your best in every aspect of your game. Find us wherever you find your podcasts, or check us out on YouTube for more Bat Reps podcasts and shows. If you like what we're doing, you can join our Discord through the Best in Tabletop Patreon group or our YouTube members only area where you'll get access to our entire library of content. Thank you for listening.
Everybody, and welcome to episode 20 of 40k Fight Club. This episode is called Final Round for reasons that are not at all prophetic, that we will get into later. I am your host, Innes, and I'm joined as always by Nathan and Anthony. And we are going to be talking about the last week in 40k, as always. How have you guys been? Nathan, you're muted.
You're right, I am. We're doing a real good job already this episode, as you can tell. Not a whole lot going on here. I'm transitioning to a new position, so that's been taking up a lot of my time. We've also been redoing our whole apartment, so that's been taking up the other chunk of time. Otherwise, I've played some Crusade games, and I've been painting up Imperial Guard tanks. So, for the inevitable letdown, that will be Imperial Guard release.
I don't know which half of that statement I'm more ashamed of.
Which part?
The fact that you're playing Guard or you're playing Crusade.
I like playing Crusade. It makes me happy and it motivates me to paint. Our local store runs a Crusade League where they have like a hobby prize, and that's the only prize that's there. So it motivates me to paint because I can win like a start collecting kit or something like that if I paint enough stuff. And in the Crusade, I'm playing Tyranids, and the things that you can do with Tyranids in Crusade are absolutely ludicrous, like Toughness 9 Hive Tyrants with 5-up Feel No Pains. That cause D3 plus 1 mortal wounds on a 2-up at the end of combat to any model that they hit. You know, normal stuff.
Sounds weaker than the Reaper.
You unfortunately can't combine the Relic for the D3 plus 1 mortal wounds with the Reaper because they're both Relic Bone Sword items. But you can give that one Maw Claws of Thyrax and get full rerolls to wound, and then at the end of combat, you can cost D3 plus 1 mortal wounds.
Have you ever heard of a concept in life called gratuitous overkill?
No. What is that?
I'm
not familiar with that one.
It's when you run 10-man sanguinary card squads instead of 7, Anthony.
Oh, too much smash.
Oh, I just don't understand the concept like that. I like Crusade because of that stuff. It is a little Excel management-y at a certain point. Once you get to like week 10 of a Crusade campaign, your data sheet things, if you've been winning enough, are basically just like super long and impossible to parse.
Yeah, as it turns out, I didn't go to school for accounting, so I don't want to do any bookkeeping.
No, but short ones, or if you manage them, they can be a lot of fun. I enjoy it because I get to hobby stuff and I get T9 Hive Tyrants out of it.
That does seem fun.
I've never wanted there to be more bookkeeping in 40k. Like, I played through 7th edition. I'm good.
Yeah,
you're always whining about wanting to go back.
Yeah, I want to go. I more want to go back to like my late teens than I want to go back to that. I like the idea of being like 19 again, like more than I like the idea of
playing 7th again.
No, I like the idea of playing 7th again. I just don't like the idea of failing to roll up invisibility anymore. So I can live in the perfect version of my head of it that exists in my head only.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Anthony, what about your week?
I did a lot of coaching last week, so that's been really fun. Getting people ready for events and stuff. Going through new Chaos archetypes and trying to figure out the CSM book one step at a time, figuring out which parts are good and which parts are not, and which parts are janky and which parts are actually good. So that's been a bit of a process, but we're getting there. We're in the home stretch before list lock for WTC, as you well know. So that's been a wonderful whirlwind of joy, which is a way of putting it. Yeah. Had July 4th. That was fun. Did some stuff. Been doing a lot of stuff with my girlfriend because I was gone for 2 weeks. So she's been a hero about that. Yeah. Looking forward to Joel Hammer this weekend. Yay, charity event. Woo!
Yeah,
Yep.
we'll share that one out again later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll share a link again at the end.
Yep.
Anthony, so dedicated to 40k that he took a business call with us mid 4th of July party.
It's true. That happened. I stepped away
He's very dedicated.
like you read about. Ines, what
Mhm.
about you?
Yeah, I had the standard. I'm prepping for WTC. I am captaining a team, so we did all of the good stuff. Went through the basing document with a fine-tooth comb of work and found some issues. Decided to be really passive aggressive about the fact they were like, Ravener should be on 50 mil bases because they're warrior chassis, despite the fact the kick doesn't come on them. So I was like, we should make sure that all Wind Rider jet bikes are on 60 mil bases because the new Shroud Runners come on them, and all Phoenix Lords should be on 40s because of James R, right? And Raveners are still on 40s.
Yeah. As it turns out, a lot of the captains play Eldar, and we're like,
yeah, we're not putting Wind Riders on 60s, brother.
yeah.
So that was good fun. I also had a small GT this weekend, which was more of a Team Scotland practice event than it was an actual GT, but it was a 32-player GT, which I did win with Tyranids, despite hating everything about my list, which was 18 Tyrant Warriors, and it's the dullest thing I've ever played. No, it's not. I played 8th edition Yunari like twice to practice. That was worse. Not much, but it was. So yeah, not much else other than that. I got to play a couple of my teammates, or I played 2 of my teammates on day 2 of that one, which was really good to get practice against some guys that used to be, good 3-2 players that are now challenging for those top spots, giving me some tough games. So I played against my teammate Matty's Chaos Knights and my teammate Chris's Blood Angels, both of which really, really tried hard. They beat 2 other teammates of ours on round 3 and 4 respectively, and I was like, "You're going back down. You stay in your place."
That's good though.
It's good. You gotta show off as the captain a little bit, right? That's kind of why you're there.
You got to beat them up a little bit just to remind them why you're captain.
Yeah.
Just kick them a couple times.
It's not
make
for
sure
my
they-
organizational skills because I don't have any. So
We know.
Boom! Got him.
no, I don't have defense against that.
But we can talk about stats for this week. I
We
guess
should talk
We
about
can
stats
do
for this
that.
week. At 7 minutes into the show, it might be a good idea to talk about 4K a little
Sure,
bit.
we can talk a little bit about 40k, not about Legion. That's for something else we'll talk about later.
Yeah, the other hour and a half of the show.
We could talk about Legion for an hour and a half. So one of the things I want to talk about is that we pick those 5 rounds, 25 or more players for our stats breakdown each week, and only about half of them were using the Nephilim rules, and the other half were either using no Nephilim rules and some data slate, or no data slate and no Nephilim rules. So for the purposes of this show, I'm just going to talk about the Nephilim stuff isolated from the rest of it because it's the only thing that makes sense. Because moving forward, we're not going to be shoving the 2 stat blocks together for any other kind of analysis. We're just going to talk about the very depressing world of Nephilim stats, at least for this first week.
Wow,
is-
we're a weekend and it's already depressing. That's
It's
a new record.
good to know that these numbers are pretty low overall for overall number of games
Not a lot
played.
of games. Yeah.
It's not a lot of games. It is only, let's see, 500-ish or 273, 300 games basically. So it's a pretty small data set overall right now, and we need probably about triple that to really get good numbers. At the top, we actually have Drukari, who only had 1 player. They went 4-1 at their one
Really
event that
depressing.
they played in, and they have an 80% win rate in Nephilim. And then after that, we have actual numbers.
No, we don't, but we have better numbers.
Tyranids had more than just 1 person playing in a GT-sized event over the weekend, which includes Innis, who pumped these numbers up quite a bit. They had 34 wins, 11 losses, and 3 draws for an overall win rate of 74%. So in case anybody was wondering, that Totally Dead Tyranids faction is totally dead, just like the Harlequins faction is totally dead. Although we'll talk about a little bit about the Harlequins
come on,
faction a little
man.
bit later.
Leave my Harlequins alone. They took away all the fun.
I know they did, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there. They're perfectly balanced, like all things should be now, according to the stats. Thousand Suns are in third place at 67.5%. Then we have Sisters at 60.6. So it may be just taken like a week or two for Sisters to get up to the S tier ranking that a lot of people have given them in the post Nephilim era.
1% win rate is pretty S tier, isn't it?
It is pretty good, but it's not the best yet. Which means next week they're going to be at a 20% win rate because I said how good they're doing.
Hey, real quick. Stop it. Stop it.
Look, man, they just got core back.
They did just get core back.
Why?
I would whip out the Drukhari so fast if they gave core back to Kronos and Talos. I would break out all of the bright neon pink Drukhari that I own and put them in that army of renown and have so much fun with it. But unfortunately,
for reference on that one, Anthony, how many times did you get tagged yesterday when they took the core sheets out of the Drukhari FAQ and put them into the balance data slate only? How many times did you get tagged about that?
More than when they first got nerfed. I got tagged like 35 times yesterday. Or
only about 20 of them were me, though.
Yeah.
It's funny because I tagged you, but I actually didn't know that there were changes or not because I was staring at the data slate going, but there's nothing here. Where's the change?
I got to see the live first response of Anthony when he got that first glimmer of hope, and it was that glimmer that I wanted to kill every time I repeated it.
Oh, it was brutal. It was so bad. I was so excited. I was so ready.
Actually amazing, though. I love it. Orcs are next after Sisters. They're at 55.6%. They had like 3, maybe 4 players. Tower next, they had 3 players. They went 5, 4, and 1, so 55%. Then we have Chaos Demons, 53.3. And then the next, there's just a bundle of things around 50 to 45. With
don't tell me one of those ones at 45. A little army that is made of skeleton robots.
So our Necrons on this. Oh, there they are. Harlequins are actually in the exact middle under Death Guard at 50% win rate. So their faction is actually dead now or perfectly balanced. I don't know. And then apparently the dead robots may in fact not be S tier because Necrons are at a 46.5% win rate.
Did I not call that? I was like, doesn't matter how many changes you get, you stay at 45.
Yeah, it's true.
It's true.
It's brutal.
You need a good player base in order to actually get more than 50% win
even
rate.
Death Guard got higher. Death Guard got to 50 Necrons. Come on.
Step it up, Necrons.
Craft World Elder are underneath Necrons at 45.7%. And then we jumble down. Who do you think is in last place for the stats?
Guard.
Nope.
CSM.
It's Chaos Space Marines at a 10% win rate. 2 players managed 1 win, basically over the weekend.
And I know who it was because it was my friend John McCartney who played Iron Warriors Demon Engines with the old codex.
Yeah, so this is
Grey Knights once.
This is old codex, to be fair. So new codex stuff is probably next week, essentially.
Yeah.
So we'll start seeing Chaos Space Marines come back a little bit, and we can talk a little bit about why they're coming back later in the episode. We can get Anthony to probably wax philosophic about how all the whiners and all the Chaos Space Marine Facebook groups and competitive Reddits are just whiny babies.
Yeah.
And then
I'm a Chaos player by heart now. He has to whinge with them.
No, never.
And then we have Astra Militarum, who are right above Chaos Space Marines at a 40% win rate. Custodes are also at 40%. Adeptus Mechanicus is at 40%, and Gene Stealer Cult is at 40%. And all of those are underneath Space Marines, who are only above them by 0.7%.
That's a good jump for GSC, to be fair.
I mean, even Astra Militarum, so Guard and Custodes and Mechanicus are doing a little bit better in this very, very small data set of 1 to 2 players.
That's what, like 4 events total?
Yeah, basically. Like I said, folks, this is a very small data set, so we shouldn't draw too many conclusions from it. But I do like kind of pulling out some of this stuff because some of it is kind of funny, like the 10% Chaos Space Marines win rate. That I think
That's
is
rough,
amusing.
Man. That's not good.
usually, I would pull the sample size of most of these just out of the data set entirely because most of them are under 10 players, and I wouldn't even bother with them.
Well, to be fair, that was 100% of all Chaos Space Marine and Gene Stealer Cult players at events this weekend.
It was all 100% of them. And this is all the Nephilim rules. We're going to see how it shakes out basically over the next couple of weeks. It's going to take 2 to 3 weeks. There's also stuff that happened in an FAQ recently that we'll see how that shakes up things because it changes how terrain rules interact with factions. There's
Yeah.
probably some combinations with Abaddon and deep striking units charging through obscuring terrain at units within an inch of terrain that may be
It's
a
the
little
biggest
out of
buff Overrun
control.
ever received.
Yeah, maybe out of control. It'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Oh.
Other than that, that's pretty much all we've got for this week. It's a pretty short week. It's very small in events that actually used all of the rules that we're interested in. Next week, we'll probably get the full uptake of rules. And we'll see a partial uptake of Chaos Space Marine rules. So we'll make the data set even worse twice, just in really quick succession. So I hope everybody's really excited for terrible data for a few weeks.
Just a little bit.
I mean, the data is always terrible. It's just whether we can make it work or not.
It's true.
It's always based on 40k players, which is never a good sign.
No, the worst part is I've been hearing a lot of rules lawyering about the ability on the priority targets map with the sisters, defend the shrines thing, that because you can move one of the objectives so that it has a tiny bit of it out of the deployment zone that you can pick that objective to be your shrine.
Nope. Like,
And
die.
what I said is, since it doesn't
Die.
say wholly within, it's within your deployment zone. 2/3 of it are within your deployment zone. You can't do that, guys.
The trick is to win the roll off and just directly move the objective into the other objective into your deployment zone so they can't pick it.
Yes.
That'll show them.
You'll lose other ways, but that'll show up.
They won't be able to auto 15 the one secondary objective.
12.
12, sorry.
Okay, because you're taking off at the end of the game, right?
Well, no,
Yeah, you
it maxes at 12, doesn't
Oh,
it?
does it? Oh, that's sad. I thought
I
that was
think
leap of faith. Okay, I don't understand sisters very well. My opponent scored like 3 and 3 on it, so it was fine.
On Defend the Shrine, that makes sense.
Yeah, they scored 6, and then I forgot to take the 3 off of them at the end of the game for them not holding it. But
Once upon a time, I gave someone a negative score on that. You can't.
And
But yeah,
play them in that
it would have
version.
been.
you can in fact not do that, but it is cool.
Oh, there you go. Shrine's 15. Leap.
Yeah,
is,
I think Shrine has an end game tick as well if you hold it,
I think it's 3 points at the end game. Yeah,
and then -3 if your opponent holds it.
I think that's
Something like that. Anyway, sisters, who cares? No, they're not a real faction.
we're gonna have to start caring eventually.
No, we won't. Look at their win rate. It was barely even 70%.
It was barely 60%. Is what
Look,
you really
look. We've been playing in a meta where the S tiers have been Harlequins, Tyranids,
a little 60 to 62%.
Right? Barely even A tier in a real meta, baby.
Oh no!
Like, yeah, you're going to be stomping on those Necron players, but fine.
So is everybody else.
And your S tier, like Rock is in Rock, Paper, Scissors.
I think a lot of people are just too enamored with the idea that you can play Necrons and score like 80 points if you just don't leave and your opponent doesn't do anything to you.
Hey, you sure can. You can't stop your opponent scoring 81, but you sure can score 80.
Yeah, they can race to 80 like a motherfucker, though.
Mm-hmm. Like, don't worry, you'll get 80, I'll get 85, and it'll be fine.
It's a draw in WTC. Don't do that.
That seems fine.
I mean, it's fine in our scoring system for 90% of singles events.
Yeah.
Sure. Why do I care? Can we pull up Glarg's comment?
You want me to? I will.
Yeah.
I have the power.
That's Paul from Discord.
I know who he is.
I mean,
I'm not going to
mostly-
read it out loud, but
I'm mostly curious how a Thousand Suns player picked up the sisters chip, but you know. Anyway,
Anywho, let's go into something about meta stuff. Let's talk about CSM. How about we do that?
I'm talking about the FAQ.
Oh, fine.
Is that
you
gonna
start
matter
with
for
the
everything?
FAQ?
Sure. And
I'm so glad they nerfed orcs.
Go ahead.
Go
All
ahead,
right,
Ennis. Tell us
give us
about
the-
the FAQ.
Give us the cliff notes and then your favorite part.
Okay, cliff notes on the whole FAQ.
Everything.
All right, orcs got nerfed.
Yep.
I don't care about anything else. I was happy at that.
You gotta find something. Dig.
Okay. How ethereals are no longer able to be taken in first enclaves, but first enclave successors got back double commanders, so there is no reason to ever play outer enclaves ever again, and that's frankly good because you were not making choices at that point. It was just better than first enclaves, and it removed dead centuries. There was some small changes to. God, there was a faction that had like an actually important change that I'm completely blanking on.
Adeptus Mechanicus got a bunch of their stuff
Yeah,
reversed.
Admech got all of their stratagems except acquisition at any cost. Basically, got their change reserve reverted. So you're looking at 4 shots from your ranges again by going to, or 3 shots from your. How does that rule work? Yeah, they go to rapid fire 2, right? Yeah, so they can turn their guns into rapid fire 2, so they can get 4 shots per ranger again. The Vanguard stratagem is cheaper again. Iron Shredders got core back officially outside of the balance data slate. The only one that stayed nerfed is acquisition at any cost. Still requires you to be wholly within 6 of an objective, instead of being able to chain across it as the core rules have.
Mm-hmm.
We also saw a change to Tide of Shadows for Grey Knights. So Tide of Shadows now definitely requires you to be over 12 inches away to receive the benefit from dense cover as well. Whereas before that was kind of ambiguous, and people were taking that if you were just in light cover at all, which is a decent bit which could be a nerf depending on how you were ruling that.
Oh, that's strange. I never even considered that.
Yeah, so now both conditions have the 12 inches away.
Gotcha.
We saw a change to the Gene Circle crossfire markers for the Sanctus, who now requires the unit that he's targeting to have a crossfire marker on it in order to benefit from exposed. Which has some other minor implications about other stuff like how the Jackals are to work, because it doesn't have that criteria now. So does that work without crossfire markers? Blah, blah, blah,
Yeah, that's
nobody knows.
confusing.
They also added some clarification on how that works in transports. We saw all of the Drakari paint engines not get core back.
They just removed it from the FAQ.
They removed it from the FAQ and put it in the balance data slate, which is where it should be.
Yes, it's where it should be, but it is really funny that they did it.
They cleaned up some wording on the Death Watch aggressors. Custodes had the martial discretion stratagem, the one that lets you put a unit into any kata for once per game. Now requires you to have the kata roll in the first place, whereas before you could kind of technically use it in soup.
Which makes sense, really, when you think about it. Like, you can't kata something if it doesn't have the kata. It can't do karate if it doesn't know karate.
Exactly, but
I don't really understand how they forget karate when there's other people around. That seems inconvenient.
Well, no, you have to understand they're not all doing karate, so it's not synchronized.
But not everybody is kung
it's
fu
not
fighting.
powerful.
It's really more like synchronized swimming than karate.
Statistically, everybody was not kung fu fighting, but in the case of Custodes, they sure were.
I think the other thing to remember is that they clarified how crossfire tokens work in soup for Forces of the Hive Mind. So you just never get crossfire tokens anymore. So you can't trigger stratagems that would require crossfire tokens because you can never place them.
Yeah, you can't use the Nexus.
People were doing it.
There were people arguing you could use the Nexus, who allows you to place one in the command phase to sideline it.
Oh, those
people needed mental help. There was some cleanup around orcs, like the custom shock rifles on the Shotgun Dragstas now apply more only to the unit. And ground shaker shells for the heavy lobba now don't apply on like the random little pistol guns, which was so bizarre that they felt the need to FAQ that, but also so bizarre that it worked that way in the first place.
Yep.
And they clarified how the bonuses for like transports work, and that was an indirect nerf of orcs.
They updated Imperial armor and didn't change the Megara's sweep to be a sweep, so it still works with competitive edge for some reason. So speak to your TO about that one if you don't want to get slapped in the face.
They also didn't give it the right chaos keywords, right? It doesn't have abhorrent class.
They don't have the abhorrent.
It still doesn't have that one, but it was never meant to, clearly. What they didn't do was like add any of the way the faction works keywords to Tyranids, which I'm still upset about. Please just give them like the keywords that everything else has. The Malvloop's not a Sporecaster. Why is it not a Sporecaster?
He is now.
And then the only other thing that matters is we got a little FAQ to the main rulebook. So one thing they changed, they updated While We Stand We Fight from the generic core rulebook missions. The Ram Ranch ones that at the start of the edition. So While We Stand We Fight now works. Do you not remember that when
I know what you're talking about.
when they originally leaked, they had the lyrics to an Unpleasant song written all over them, and I committed very hard to making sure that they were called the Ram Ranch missions, and they ended up not being the missions we play. Well, I'm still kind of gutted that they didn't end up being.
Jesus.
I'm not drunk enough for this.
I am.
All right.
They did another never stationary thing, or
they updated some stuff about stationary and actions and
Again?
Doesn't matter. Yeah,
They made
there
it
was,
so you
like-
can't do actions, basically, even if you count as stationary if you
Stop
advance.
trying to do things that the game clearly doesn't. It's so annoying.
They basically
Stop
made it so you can just
janking.
never advance and do actions unless you have a specific rule-based exception to it.
which you'd think people would have learned by now, but
Mhm.
no. They also added an update to the can't be affected by psychic powers rule, which I actually quite like, which is
Oh, that
if
was
you
cool.
are affected by an ability that says you can't be affected by psychic powers, so whether you're a collected assassin or you have the sisters or the Grey Knight's Litany on you, you are also not affected by things that will boost the attack rolls of units attacking you with psychic powers. So that's your prescience, your guide, excuse me, anything like that doesn't affect it.
Doom?
If it's something that's buffing the unit itself, it will. Like, I don't think that stops the Tyranids one where you get a synaptic. It gives you a synaptic imperative because they just make you count as being in range of each other. So that I don't know if that would be affected. There's some weirdness with that one.
Yeah, it just turns off direct things like guide, as far as I
Yeah.
can tell.
But that's definitely something that could maybe use additional clarification because, like, if it's a psychic power that gives you, like, imagine a psychic power that has you count as being in range of something else, and then that range, being in that range, gives you an aura. Do you count as being in? Does that count as a psychic power for the purposes of this rule? It's kind of up in the air. I could
How does it work
definitely
with
put some-
range extends? Because that's a thing thousands.
Yeah, just little stuff like that. Like, it is a psychic power that is affecting the attack, right? But it's not affecting the attack directly.
Yeah.
So I would be curious to see how that works. They cleaned up some wording on the transport rules, which has introduced one of my favorite rules loopholes, or continues one of my favorite rules loopholes. You know how the rules for transport say if you're in a transport, you can't be you're not affected by rules that affect attacks, right? Okay, so if you're in a transport and you it's an open top transport, for example, and you fire a fusion pistol out of it at Terran Warrior, are you unaffected by its transhuman rule?
Get out of here, NS. They also changed.
Credit to some guys in the Goonhammer Discord for that one because
They
I
also-
love that, and you should not do that. Stop.
Don't
some
do
help.
that. The other thing they changed was what bonuses you actually get in a transport if you're riding in one and shooting out of it. Like, you get bonuses to the hit and wound roll and stuff like that.
They
right?
stopped the speed war argument where people used to argue that the speed war gave you the additional AP on guys inside trucks. It
Mhm.
never worked. It never should have worked. You were a fool for arguing it.
It's true.
Shall we get on to the one that we've very clearly been dancing around for at least 10 minutes?
Yes, we should talk about some obscuring terrain shenanigans.
Some obscuring changes and some obscure rules. So broadly, in the most convoluted way possible, if one of two of the units that would be involved in the combat is within an inch of obscuring terrain, and that obscuring terrain is in between the closest point of the two models, they have a 2-inch engagement range. That, like, you popped open a can of worms like it was Budweiser and started chugging at Games Workshop. I don't understand what this change was meant to. I understand what this change was meant to fix, and very clearly, one of the playtesters played against somebody who just stood an inch away, who stood 1.1 inches away from the wall, and said, "Your Space Marines don't fit here." And he was like, "Oh, fuck this!" Went off to his computer and just started typing and hit submit on GitHub, and it was gone.
Yeah.
And instead of making it like battle line or something where you can fight through the wall,
You just chose violence.
we've
dude.
chosen violence that promotes violence across the whole
We've
game.
chosen to just make the game confusing and worse.
Yeah. They
At least more confusing.
like, as someone that this buffs, I'm not very happy about this. This very, like, no one played with this. And I feel like every time that Games
Or-
Workshop,
Somebody played with this, but they think the consolidate rules still work like 5th edition, where you have to go as close to the enemy model as possible.
yeah, probably is what happened.
They're like, well,
So,
why wouldn't I move to base contact?
so I think in the time that I've been playing, that every time that Games Workshop touches the charge or fight phase in any way, shape, or form, the game gets worse. Whereas, like, the real answer to a lot of this is
No. There was one good one, and that was 0-inch charges.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, so you used to be able to ignore vertical distances on charges as well. So if you deep struck 9
That
inches above
seems
somebody,
bad. Yeah.
deep struck 9 inches above somebody, you could charge directly down 0
Oh
inches.
yeah, That's stupid for different reasons. That just shouldn't have been in there in the first place. That was gone by the time I started.
My
I think one of
favorite
those
visual though
I
is
think
like
one
a
of those in Blade
Terminator.
Dwarf.
That's just my favorite visual is a Terminator jumping off of like the 3rd floor of a building and just like landing on some poor fool.
No,
on the
no, no.
first
So,
floor
It was
of the
jetpack units would do that, right? You would
I
need
played
fly.
I played a friend of mine who put his Crimson Hunter on top of a building. So I deep struck my Smash Captain at the bottom of the building,
Yeah.
charged 11 inches directly upwards, straight through it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not happy. Every time
this is a bad
it feels like what they need to do is just like have some way to teach people more about the fight phase so that people don't lose their gourd when they go into the fight phase against an experienced player. But what
Which is going
instead
to
they do
happen
is
more now.
yeah, I
It's
mean,
gonna
say
happen more.
what happened instead is that you're gonna dance into engagement range and then out, and your opponent's their head's just gonna explode like right off their shoulders, like clean
Yeah,
off.
you're just going to see little bits of grey goo drooling out of their ear. It's
Yeah.
like, this
This
was my
is
first
definitely-
GT and I'm not coming back.
This has definitely made people who master the phase, like with combat and charges, way more powerful at the game, and people who are just
No,
not
it
ready for it
hasn't.
are just gonna die.
No, yeah. What innocent.
No, it hasn't.
Really?
This has made it less relevant to have any of that skill because you don't need any of that skill to engage with the fight phase over terrain anymore.
Yeah, you
don't need to play to create gaps or to exploit gaps in holes. You just charge them, and you don't need to, you don't need to set up the maneuver where you charge into a character and another unit and then pile into the character, punch them, and then consolidate out. That just happens there. You just do that for free.
Yeah. Also, the 2-inch engagement range is weird. Like, you can't hide characters in second ranks because you just get lit up.
Oh, also, let's talk about you put a transport on a GW terrain base, and then you get wrapped by a single ring of 25 mil bases now because they have a 22-inch engagement range.
Yep.
So, like, you have like a Harlequin Starweaver. I'm pretty sure like 5 Sanguinary Guard can wrap that now.
Oh yeah, it was close before. Like,
yeah.
Can you even emergency disembark out of it?
Yeah,
you can emergency.
Okay.
That said, if it was a 10-man 32 mil unit, you might just be screwed.
10 gargoyles, buddy.
Yeah.
Now there's the other question with this. So basically, the core problem is when you're meeting the criteria of having that terrain piece between you and the enemy model, you have a 2-inch engagement range. If you make a consolidation move that brings you closer to the enemy model, but not within 1 inch, and removes that terrain bridge between the two of you, you disengage your engagement range. That's the core problem with it. So you have 2 models, and this is a 2-inch gap, and there's a ruin where my eyeball is, and then you consolidate up to here, and there's no ruin in between you and the eyeball anymore. There's no eyeball between, and now the disengagement range is only 1 inch again because you've not got the terrain. I realize that's a terrible example, but the idea there, something like that.
It adds a bunch of little checks that you won't think about because the rule is very arbitrary.
Or you will think about it and will abuse to the nth degree.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
So, like, one example you could give you, so you can hit a unit without getting hit back. One example I've been liking is I'm running 10 gargoyles on my list. If I just run them up the board, make one of those charges, pile in 3, consolidate 3 out of engagement range, I'm no longer in engagement range, and I made a charge move, so I can overrun without having to ever make an attack. So I can, in the charge phase, move, what's that? Up to a 12-inch charge, plus
you can move 24.
Guaranteed 6 inches.
You can move 24 inches, yeah.
No, you can
30.
move 30.
30 inch. Oh, with
actually,
the
you can move 31, right? Because you're a +1 to charge, boy.
You can go way higher than that. You can go to like 35 if you can go +2 for the Turbigon's adaptive for 14 inches extra.
Ridiculous.
You can have Deathkeeper +2 to charge. You can have the Parasite Amortrex's +3 consolidation. Parasite Amortrex +2 to consolidation ability, which is a real thing you can have.
That's real. I'll give you that one.
You can go really far for no reason. I just don't think it's a good change. It makes objectives near ruins objectively terrifying. It makes ruins way more scary.
Yeah,
which means like.
Sorry, I think these 2 points are like they summarize it pretty well. This is true.
So that's Jonathan Slays Johnson saying, "I think they made most people that understand rules mad."
And then this is the natural progression of that.
Yeah.
GW trying to stop newer players from getting bad touch in the fight phase inadvertently made said players get bad touch way more often instead. Yeah, pretty much.
In a way more awful way. Like I tend to as someone that tends to play really aggressively and kill a lot of shit, I find that people are way more upset when I tell them that most of their army is dead than when I tell them they can't charge me. So this making it so I can just windmill slam into you and you're safe nowhere ever. Like, you cannot stop me from charging you. Having just played an event where that was the case is rough. Like, what do? Like, there are just armies that are so fast in this game that once they're in midboard, they're charging you wherever you go. So now what? Now you just die?
Yeah.
You don't have options. Like, you're just dead.
I'm going to be
Basically.
kissing with my Team-Started Warriors because they got way better at charging now.
Yeah, those 50 mil base big boys.
So now don't get hit back.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Good
When
luck
we get
explaining
onto
that
stuff like
across
the move blocking possibilities.
Oh,
So like if you've got a gap
Yeah.
between terrain and you've got a model on one side of the ruin and a model on the other side of the ruin, they now have 2-inch engagement range, and you create an extra 2 inches of that terrain gap that is not bridgeable.
You've doubled the
The move
move
block,
blocking.
yeah.
And you've tripled, quadrupled the area of
Mhm.
engagement range. Then you get onto stuff like engagement range abilities. So cut them down, for example, is models in engagement range of a unit. So if you have like a 15-man squad surrounding a character, and they fall back now, every single one of them is hitting, and you're averaging 2.5, 3 mortal wounds for CP there. So big squads become a lot scarier to fall back from no good reason. You have stuff like
Shock Prow.
Yeah, Shock Prow. You have the Sanguinary Guard strategy or the Jump Pack strategy for Space Marines, which is models in engagement range, roll a dice, and for every one that exceeds the toughness, you take a mortal wound. It's not always super easy to get like 5, 6, 7 Space Marines and get into engagement range of a single character. Now it really is, and you get to roll all of those dice.
Nope.
So like squishy elf characters that you don't want fighting on death, like you charge a Harlequin character with 7 Sanguinary Guard, you might get 4 engagement range previously. Now you'll get a full 7-man squad, and you've got a decent odds of one shot on that character in the charge phase, so it can't fight on death.
Yep.
All of these are very impactful changes that are kind of
definitely didn't
accidental.
Get thought about.
Very accidental. These are accidental changes that I don't think are healthy for the game. I don't think they're particularly interesting.
They're not
out for
intended.
WTC, right? We're not playing with these.
We don't know. We are considering not implementing this change.
Okay.
But it's not set in stone yet. We should make a decision this week.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the other rule was just better.
Yeah, that you can just exist in a wall a little bit, and then you have to get out of it as soon as possible. Like, just don't worry about it too much.
Or you add freaking defense line to all the ruins.
Defense line doesn't.
It doesn't really fix it, but it fixes it a little bit. It's better than
played
this
on the LGT boards that have a couple of defense lines on every board. They're really confusing and don't work the way you think they do enough.
Yeah, it breaks. It gets brain breaky very fast with those. The exist in a wall thing, having played it now, is like the best rule. Like, it's a little immersion screwy, but then you just accept that the war game you're playing is an abstraction.
You can fight through a wall anyway. Like, just...
Yeah. Well, it's an abstraction anyway, right? So like, it's not that big of a deal. Once you add that, the game makes infinitely more sense, and like, you can still screen, and not everyone's randomly dead all the time, and like, there's a lot more options.
Oh yeah, you also just get +1 to charge randomly in during now, basically always.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that one we glossed over.
Yeah, just right past
because your engagement range is 2 inches in terrain. Now you just get basically 1 inch shorter on your charges from deep strike.
Everybody gets some 8-inch deep strike charges. It'll be fun.
Everybody gets 3 Blood Angels.
Or 7 for Blood Angels. Automatic charges if you're Emperor's Children.
You can still call it 6-inch charge on 3d6 with your 15 acolytes with rock saws.
You know you'll fail that when it matters.
Yeah, though. I know I will. That's why I'm still not playing GSP.
At least you can CP reroll it.
Deathly Burr from reserve actually hits a 7 now with a reroll. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a mess. I don't like the change. It encourages you. Well, one thing I think is low-key underrated is how scary mixed arms forces become again when you're pushed away from the wall and into more line of sight as well. When you've got scary shooting and scary combat bearing down on you, and you have to pick which one you're losing to, is a lot worse than just one of them. Where you're playing against shooting, fine, just stand against the wall, don't get shot. You're playing against charges, just stand further back. When you're playing against an army like Tyranids or Harlequins that can very much abuse both phases, yeah, you're not going to have fun making terrible decisions,
Yeah,
and
that
you're
true.
going to have a lot of making the wrong choice and getting punished for it for no good reason.
And
Yep.
when you get punished by that stuff, it's bad. Because a lot of the 2 inches off it means that you're also not getting cover now. So you're just like stood there in the open with your hands in the air.
Yeah, unless your ruins are really wide and long. About it. It's the only situation where you're getting any kind of benefit from obscuring terrain at that point. Which, given GW's like bases for all of their terrain, is not probably how they envisioned the rule, I suppose. But
No, I mean on GW terrain, this is a nightmare. You can move block the entire board on the hammer deployment with like 3 units.
yep.
How much stuff can you engage with a Chardonnay and Taylor Witch squad now with 2 inch engagement range?
I wasn't going to talk about that. I was going to just let that slide
Or
away.
master of snares.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, never retreat ever again.
just stay.
What if your whole army was just in combat now?
Hopefully, you have the fly keyword somewhere. You're not going anywhere.
Fly doesn't help you against master of snares.
I mean, no, but the units behind that line of combat can get over it.
Sure.
Yeah.
My sweet summer child, you get closer to the Drukhari.
Come at me, brother.
I mean, I'm fine with people coming into hugging distance. It's true.
Yeah.
It's just that you can get over it if you need to. It does make fly even more important for your
You
army
can get
list at
over
that
the
point.
line. You might not get over what happens afterwards.
It's true, because right behind that is like Drazar, a succubus, the more
Drazar, who
stuff.
now gets to punch you and leave.
Yeah.
Then
Drazar-
punch you again. And
Drazar
leave.
with
Yeah, he
2
goes
inch
out
engagement.
and then back in.
Drazar, the yo-yo.
Master of blades, baby. Also
Ma-
master of these ruins.
Master of yo-yo is just yo-yoing his way through life.
God, I miss that model.
I can't mime yo-yos, and I just don't know how.
Every day. Every time I play any army, I'm like, it's not the same.
I don't know. Reaper for Blitterax feels pretty good.
It's not the same though.
It's not the same because you have to pump so much more CP into it.
Yeah. There's one model that feels the same actually right now, and that's Abaddon.
Yeah. Abaddon's also twice as many points.
Plus 10.
Plus
Abaddon
10.
also meaningfully buffs your army though.
It's true. He actually does provide force multiplication.
Unlike Drazar, whose aura is really for himself.
Yes.
That might as well just be a personal buff.
It's for himself. If Incubar are nearby, they can have it.
Yeah, nice.
It's not there for
That's not
them.
why he's there, yeah.
It's like saying
can
you
keep-
pick Tyrants for the reroll ones, you know?
Oh, dude, sick.
Like, all right, I'll remember I have this 4 turns out of 5, but I'm not banking on it, you know?
Yeah.
Don't bank on it. All right. Chaos Space Marines time, since we're going in that direction.
I'm super
don't-
curious what
don't-
Ennis thinks about this book.
Don't look at my shelf.
Yeah, I see
I
them.
can't.
Have to be
Are
honest,
those Terminators?
those are 5 Chaos Space Marine Terminators in Cadbury.
Okay. Wow, I'm
Yeah.
surprised that I could identify them. Because they
Walk me
just
through what you think about this book, Ennis.
All right, can I start with a preface that because WTC, I haven't been thinking about it as much as I would like to.
Yeah, sure.
I have definitely kind of looked at the gloss over bits. I looked at the bits that have caught my eye on a first pass, and I've not gone on the deep divey stuff. I've not read a single secondary,
Okay.
like any of them, and I've kind of read the psychic powers and stuff like that. Things
If you
that
say anything crazy, I'll tell you you're wrong.
yeah, that's fine, and I probably will be on a lot of this because this is first takes from somebody who's trying not too hard to love this book before I have to not think about it for another month.
Yep.
I really like a few of the legions, so I really like Red Corsairs in certain situations. I really like Creations of Bile, and I really like Iron Warriors. Those are the 3 that stood out to me. I think Emperor's Children has interesting play, but not enough to make me want to go away from the other 3 options because it's fast, but you know the other ones are faster or resilient, or faster in the right situations and more resilient. And I like the resilience. Iron Warriors, I really. That's
Warriors-
basically what I'm getting at here. Is Iron Warriors really fun?
Iron Warrior is tanky.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I like tanky. There's a few data sheets that really stand out. Abaddon, obviously, I think everybody under the sun knows Abaddon is insane. I like Terminators. I don't like Chosen. Chosen just don't really tickle my itch.
They just don't have the weapon upgrades needed to get them over the line. If if they weren't just stuck with like a AP3 strength 5 1 damage weapon, then they're a lot more interesting as it
Are they
is.
even AP3?
They're AP3.
Is the default a cursed weapon AP3 the one the Terminators have as well?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
plus
I read
1,
that. I read
3.
that as 2 for some reason. Yeah,
Oh, no, it's
that's
AP3.
that's better.
It's not bad. It's just not great in a faction
It's
without.
a lightning claw that doesn't reroll to wound and gets an AP. Like it's plus
Well,
1 strength instead of AP1, instead of plus 1 strength and no reroll to
it's
wound.
just a power sword that gives you an extra attack, brother.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. I'm trying to equate it to like Vanguard veterans in my head, and Vanguard veterans have lightning claws.
Yeah,
So
Vanguard
they're going to
veterans
do
are
less
much
damage
better
than
than
an average
Chosen.
Vanguard veteran. Yes,
Yeah.
they're more resilient, but they don't get shields. They get exploding sixes, but they don't get AP in later turns. But they start with that to compensate. Chosen just don't seem. I don't know. I like that they get in rhinos, but I think there's better options for rhinos like Corn Berserkers and Plague Marines. I think you can do much more interesting things with your rhino slots. If they got marks, I would probably like them a lot more.
Wait,
Lord
who?
Discordants seem like absolute
Wait.
gaming. Oh, sorry. Chosen don't get marks, do they?
Chosen get marks, and they get icons, so they can hit on 2s if they're Slanesh.
Oh,
and
I thought
have
they
a-
didn't get one. I thought they didn't get those.
No, they get both.
Oh, okay.
Terminators don't get icons.
Oh, and Possessed don't get marks or icons.
Possessed don't get marks.
Right. Okay. So yeah, this is not reading the book enough.
I just love that conversation because it's fun to think of like all the exceptions
It's
to
so
icons
dumb.
and marks.
The
there's a lot
TSM
of-
clearly had some keywords and items get removed at like the 1 yard line. Like
Reads
Core
a-
was
reads a
very
bit like
clearly
the
on those
Eldar book.
Possessed at one point.
I'm kind of glad it's not. They seem good
Oh
enough.
yeah. Yeah, they would be Codex Possessed if they had Core still.
Or could go in rhinos.
They can go in certain transports, just not rhinos.
Dreadclaws.
Dreadclaws. 10 of them go in Dreadclaws. They don't take up 2 spots on those. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't love Chosen. I really like Terminators, but I really like exactly one squad of Terminators that you buff to the 9s and then never think about again.
Yep.
Probably going as little on the like psychic buffs as possible. Just give them all the defensive buffs you can stack on them at the start of the game, and then buff other stuff with psychic powers, or don't with psychic powers. I think that's a fairly possible option as well. Maybe not one you'll love, but a bore is good.
I've taken 0 psychic powers in my build.
I really like the Balefire Acolyte and the Legionnaire squads for making your troops do something. It seems like a fairly decent way to spend not a lot of points to get some extra casts.
It's almost easier to just not spend the points on troops because cultists are awesome.
Yeah, but you have to have enough core units to get cultists, right? So
That's easy to do.
it depends on the way you're building the list. Because I've been like one squad of Terminators, one squad of Legionnaires, 2 squads of cultists, and no other core in
Oh,
most of my builds. So there's definitely differences there. But again, it's just I would need to play with it a lot more. The Balefire Acolyte seems like a good way to spend. What is it? 20 points for the upgrade and 15 for a mark or something like that.
well, if you mark them, yeah, it's 15 for that, and then it's 90 for the squad or so. It's 18 times 5. Yeah, so like it adds up.
It adds up, but they're not bad for what they are. In something like Creations of Bile, they can hit pretty hard in combat. They can advance and charge in a pinch. They've got double fire access. You can definitely get mileage out of them that you don't feel too bad about. And having just more psychic power access seems really nice. You can get like access to the Zinch power when you're not running a Zinch psychic because you want the Marcus Slanesh or whatever like that. To get the reliable Feel No Pain from the Master Possessions or whatever like that. There's definitely some interesting things. Dark Apostle, obviously insane. I think they're one to one in the list. You just kind of start with one and then go from there.
Yeah, you definitely start with a Dark Apostle. They're nuts.
Slanesh Dark Apostle, probably. Because
I
Advance and
can see
Charge is
arguments
fun
for
as
some of
hell.
the other ones. But yeah, Slanesh is real good.
I like Advance and Charge too much to not run it. Possessed, obviously great, but they're skirmish pieces. They're not the focus of the army, I don't think.
Unless you're playing Word Bearers, then you have an argument for them.
Yeah,
to be
War Bearers can make them reroll pretty good. I love War Bearers Helldrakes. It's gonna kill me, but I love the idea of War Bearers Helldrakes. They're so good into Harpies.
Sure.
Look, man, I'm not like I said. Chaos and me have a difficult relationship where everything I do, I have to feel. It's the one army where I'm like, I have to make this janky because your stuff's just not good enough on its own to do it without jank.
It is now.
But
Oh,
I can't recognize that until I've played it.
yeah.
I'm still sitting in the headspace of I need to make this jank because it's chaos and chaos sucks.
It's fair. It's not true anymore, but it's fair.
On that note, I really like Helldrakes. I think Helldrakes are pretty solid. For 165, they do a lot with the Baleflamer getting the 2 extra shots. They're decent in combat. They're still movement 60. They move block really well in the right situations.
The Baleflamer is so bananas now.
Yeah, they're like I'm very, very comfortable having 3 Baleflamers in the list and calling that my shooting phase near enough.
Yeah. Yeah, those Baleflamers are good. I wish you could put those Baleflamers on more things. You can make so much more of Chaos interesting if those were more available. Like, if you could put 3 of those on a Forge Fiend, you'd play one.
There's definitely a world where you like double Disco Lord just for a second Baleflamer. Especially if you're not running Abaddon, you've got a bit more speed to chuck around.
The problem with not running... It ends up being a slot problem. Okay, I mean, I can do
you
my...
you could do like Apostle double Disco Lord.
Oh, that's fucking rough, though.
I said you could, not you should.
Yeah, that's hard. Like, it's really hard to make the second disco good. Like, the first one's really easy because
You just put Flames of Spite on it, and then you don't worry about anything else. You give it your relic of choice.
I will say I did not notice that the Flames of Spite
Works on the Baleflamer?
worked on the Baleflamer until you said something.
Yeah.
Because the first line said melee attack, because I remember looking and being like, surely not. And then it said melee attack, and then I stopped reading. But no, that works just fine, which is Banana Town nonsense.
Last couple things. I like Noise Marines, but I'm not in love with Noise Marines. And I really like the Chaos Big. I really like Creations of Bile for Terminator or for Rhinos with Gorn Berserkers or Plague Marines in them.
Yeah.
Because those boys are fast with advanced charge that you can use in the charge phase.
They're quick, but they lose their Legion trait, so they're not that fast.
No, they don't get the +1 movement, but you're still like...
They also don't get Fight on Death, so they're like...
Yeah, but you get a lot of weapons from a 200 net points for the Plague Marines that can go in a Rhino advanced charge.
I'm not like super jazzed. Maybe this is like a separate conversation. I'm not like super jazzed about the Death Guard Plague Marine, just the Plague Marine in general situation. They're like fine, but it feels very like this would have been really cool in 8th or 7th E. Like
it wouldn't have been. It would have been awful in 7th. Nothing
sure,
we're
whatever.
doing. Nothing we're doing in 8th edition or 9th edition is even close to the top end level of 7th. I'm sorry.
Not even the top end level. Sorry, I'm talking more about like weapon
Yeah.
profiles, right? Where they're like, dude, you get 2 plasma guns, and I'm like,
oh no, I'm like, you run like double flail and double axe, and you just go hitting people with the stick so hard.
No, I get it, but like the other guys still get the extra stuff, but the extra stuff just doesn't matter.
I think I like Zerkers more than Plague Marines.
Me too. The Zerker datasheet is Banana Town for 21.
Yeah, but I definitely think Plague Marines are interesting enough in that they will also probably stay there if you apply them right, whereas Gorn Berserkers are going to die.
I don't know that that's like
just Space Marines.
I don't know it's like 100% true.
Okay. That's kind of my rough thoughts on them. I think it's a solid book. I don't think it's breaking the game anywhere. Nothing in it stands out like I look at it and I'm like, this is a Void Weaver's level problem.
No.
The secondaries don't seem great. Like they're definitely playable. The Creations of Bile one is really good. That's another reason I like them. I also really like the Surgical Precision Wardlord trait, especially comboed with the Tzeentch Demon weapon.
There's a bunch of stuff in Bile that's like this close. Like very close.
For reference, Surgical Precision is on a 4+ to hit. You auto wound and you apply an extra AP, and the Tzeentch Demon weapon ignores invulnerable saves. So on like a Demon Prince or a Lord Discordant, it's a lot of attacks that you can pump through at AP3 or AP4 with ignore invuls.
Yep. It's basically the same kind of attacks. That specific combo works better on a Demon Prince.
It does, yeah. But the Demon Prince is a little faster with it as well, which helps.
The same speed. One just says fly.
Yeah, which is faster.
I guess.
When you're trying to play on the WC terrain, 13-inch fly is a lot faster than 13-inch on a aircraft base.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anthony, go for you.
I am. So I think Iron Warriors and Word Bearers are probably the 2 most like straight line powerful things in the book.
Yeah.
If you don't have like a specific preference or you're not like super acclimated to the fight phase, I think they represent the most like raw power. Iron Warriors are the tankiest thing in this book, and with the buffs available, the Terminators might be the tankiest thing in any book. They can get very out of hand very quick.
They don't do a lot of damage while they're doing it, but they do exist a long time.
Yeah, and then all right, so I'm playing Emperor's Children. So I think Emperor's Children is the like one of, if not the best, if you're combat focused. Between the stratagems that are available to Emperor's Children and the fact that they don't have good warlord traits and relics, so you're more incentivized to take the generic stuff, and you lose basically nothing for Abaddon being in the list. I really like Emperor's Children. The stratagems that they have access to make Strife look like child's play. Their stratagem suite is bananas.
Honor the Prince is a lot of stratagem.
Yeah, Honor the Prince is a thick bit of stratagem working in both phases. It's real good.
Heroic intervention, fight on death. They do have all the things that you're like,
Fight last.
I am glad I have that.
Yeah. They have 2 sets of fight last because they have the only native fights last in the entire book in Lucius. And then they have the stratagem that they can do, which with a combination with a relic on a discordant, as an example, they can do for free once per game. So being able to double lockdown and then have a fight on death, it's really easy to turn your opponent's fight phase into your fight phase, which is my favorite thing to do in the entire game. Coupled with the fact that they're all Slaanesh, that most of the army will have OA strikes first, makes them just like a real bear to engage with in melee. In my army, I do have some melee upgrades on my Terminators. They do damage if you ignore them, but they're really just like a 330 point delivery system for a Discordant and Abaddon. Because if you don't deal with them, they'll kill you. If you try to deal with them, that's fine, because right behind them is Abaddon and the Disco.
I'm assuming you're keeping it fairly simple with just Black Rune and the Transhipment Litany.
Yeah, exactly. Black Rune, Transhipment Litany, and I don't have Psychers in my army because I'm built to take a pour. Because I do think the Thousand Suns matchup can actually get a little sketchy if you don't have it. Because I do. So I'm very good friends with TJ. I live very close to him. By American standards, I guess would be the right way to phrase that, because he's like 3 hours away.
He's at all the events you're at.
Yeah, we travel to all the same stuff. So for a long time, like every time we talk to him about it, a lot of the times the Chaos Mirror comes down to who ends up dominating the psychic phase.
And choosing to give up on that gives you play another role.
Right, exactly.
You're not going to win the psychic phase against Thousand Suns anyway. So
yeah, it's just not happening. So the alternative is that you don't do it at all, and then every time you kill one of his units, you get victory points. That seems way better. So because you have to kill them, they're not going to just stand there.
Are you leaving the 55 for a summoning point for a Herald in that situation?
I am not. I'm just not engaging in psychic at all. I probably could, but I'd have to like move points around in a weird way, and I don't broadly like summoning as a mechanic. I think it ends up too weird. Like there's stuff you can do with it, but it just doesn't work super great for what I'm trying to do. So what I was gonna say is the one of the secondaries is something called Rise to Glory, where you get basically a bunch of victory points for killing things with characters. And if you kill something with a character, you roll under its wounds characteristic on 2d6, you get a command point as well, which is pretty sweet. My list being a delivery system for murder characters makes that secondary super easy most of the time. There's like worlds where people can like suicide their stuff into my like Terminators, I guess. But like at that point, be my guest, because then you'll win the game in other ways. So being able to just be like, Abaddon and this Disco are going to control the game, kit them out to do accordingly, and like build them for success really goes a long way towards sharpening up some of that secondary curve. But yeah, we're there to do some of the mission ones, and then we're mostly killing people, and that's what we're there to do.
It's been working out all right.
So far great.
For those of you who are missing to the last, just raise banners on turn 5. It's okay.
Yeah, it's like basically the same thing. It's 10 points right there, baby.
I will say I was reading the Chaos Space Marine book yesterday, and I got to the relics pages, and then there were more relics pages, and then there were more relics pages, and then there were more warlord traits pages, and I kept going.
In between the relics. It's really annoying. I don't know if you've noticed that in the layout. The Chaos Space Marines Codex, where there's a relics page, then a relics page, then a picture, then a relics page, then another picture. It's like, please just let me look at the relics on the same page. I want to compare them.
It made me really unhappy because I was like reading through you read through all the Legion pages first, which is fine. But then the generics are after that, and they're after
they changed the order again?
It's like after demon weapons.
Legion stuff is always chapter specific stuff is always before generic stuff at the moment.
Yeah, so it's all the specific stuff, and then it's generics after it.
I thought you said the other way around. I was
no.
Not again.
So it was all the Legion stuff and then all the generic stuff.
I still forget.
So I thought I was done, and then I got into a whole nother section of generic relics and warlord traits, and I was like, This is gonna take more than a day or two to read.
It's got 9 supplements. It's what is it? It's got
It is so much
6
stuff.
regular supplements plus buyout plus 2 mini supplements in it.
Yeah.
Because it's got the six core legions minus, or the 9 core legions minus Death Guard, World Eaters, and Thousand Suns, and then it's also got creations of Bile and Red Corsairs.
Yeah.
I do-
Also, this feels true.
Yeah. I do feel like Chaos
Hot
Space
take,
Marines
the
with
CP
full...
reduction to the
Oh, go
game
ahead.
was GW's preemptive attempt to tame CSM. I think it kind of just happened at the same time because I think the Chaos Space Marine rule was meant to go earlier than this.
Yeah, I don't think it actually is true, but it certainly feels that way.
Yeah, the Chaos Space Marine book with full access to full CP would have been kind of monstrous. It would have been amazing, but a monster.
I'm just glad we don't live in a world where double patrol is a thing.
Oh, oh. So
The main
powerful.
one though, the one I was talking about today, speaking of metas we wish our book could exist in, pre aircraft rule of 3 harpies, baby. Give me it.
Just 3 harpies. Just hang
Well, you probably
out.
take hive crones at that point, right? They're not that much worse.
No, they're a lot worse.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they're so much worse. But there's a third adaptation sitting right there, the Mortal Wounds one ready to take. Would have been so good.
No, I'm excited to try like a few things from that book just to try it and see how it works out. Because Creations of Bile looks like a ton of fun.
Creations of Bile will be fun right up until they dark treatment them.
Look,
I mean, true.
just pretend that's not happening. It's okay. You don't
Yeah,
get as many
we're just
models as Harlequins do to abuse it on. So
We're just gonna.
Yeah,
Also,
pretty much.
There's also something just very satisfying about the idea of taking like 30 possessed in a word bearers list and just running at your opponent and be like, kill 90
God,
possessed
if
or
Chaos Space
die.
Marines had combat squads.
Like basically, like if you can't kill 30 possessed, they're going to kill all of your units.
Yeah,
I'm just hoping they FAQ that data sheet into the Death Guard Codex.
they
So-
won't because it
they
has.
won't.
I know
cores.
they won't, but come on, give me Arch Contaminator -1 damage those.
You won't though, because then you'll lose core and you won't get Arch Contaminator, buddy.
I'd take that trade. For an extra wound damage to their attack, you trade away 4 heroes to win.
It wouldn't be. Oh, you're saying add the damage and let them keep Plague Weapon? You think they're
Yeah.
gonna just?
Yeah, just take the data sheet, put it in Death Guard, leave the +1, leave the -1 damage in the Plague Weapon. Just do it. Come on, cowards. Cowards, you won't do it.
Death Guard aren't allowed to have good units, dude.
No, we know. Look, man, they've got Death Shroud, and unfortunately, you can't play 2,000 points of Death Shroud.
You can't. You can try.
You can get real close to 900.
Yeah, you can get a strong 750 points of Death Guard. It's the other 1250 you got to figure out.
Yeah, Death Shroud, top 10 data sheet in the game, genuinely. But
Oh
everything
yeah,
else in
no,
that book
actually
is
amazing.
so garbage.
Yeah, that Shroud in White Scars, dude. Let me live the dream.
No, Sanguinary Guard and White Scars. I'll take that first, please.
Yeah, but that's just cheating.
Let me have +1 damage and +1 damage advantage charge Sango.
God, yeah,
I'll even stand them next to Khan and play the Plains Runner. You'll not notice the difference.
yeah. Well, they won't be an Assault Doctrine unless you spend all your CP on them.
Nah,
So.
Sanguinary Guard, Sanguinary Priest is the same unit. It's
Oh, you
fine.
take the priest too. Just no reason to play Blood Angels ever again.
Exactly. The optimal way to play 40k.
Just no Imperium models. Just take the whole
Look,
Imperium.
Everything in the
just
Imperium
chuck it
should be
out.
White Scars.
I like how Anthony looks both offended but also confused.
Intrigued.
Alright, if I could have damage 2 stuff in White Scars, that might be fun.
Yeah, it could be. Blade Guard, baby. Just break out your Blade Guard and your
No.
aggressors.
I refuse. I have played enough aggressors to know that they're not a good data sheet. They're just almost good, but not the right kind of almost good.
I just want a new Dante model. That's all I want.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the phrase I'm looking for. Aggressors are almost good at everything you don't need.
They're a solution looking for a problem.
Like
No, they're
many
not a
GW rules
solution.
balance
They're like
attempts.
3/4 of a half-finished math problem, looking for the question.
Also a Games Workshop balance attempt.
Oh God. All right. Onwards.
No. The Games Workshop balance attempt was, I have left the most wonderful solution to charging in ruins, but it's too big for the margins of this notebook, so I leave it as an exercise to read out.
Yeah. You get what fit.
It's like somebody played a game of telephone with what they wanted to balance it, and then they just wrote it down and they're like, this is fine.
Yeah. All right, nerds.
All right, nerds. Question time. Break
No,
time.
should we do the announcement?
announcement. Should I shill Joelhammer real quick first?
You should show
Yes.
Joel Hammer first before people leave.
Okay.
Before we lose our
Uh,
whole audience.
Real quick. So this link is for the GoFundMe for Joelhammer. Joelhammer is a really awesome event run by Josh Schutz. He was at Charity Hammer. He's super awesome. This is a benefit that goes to St. Vincent's Special Needs Center in Connecticut. It's in memory of Joel Schutz, who passed away in 2016. He loved 40K, and this is a charity event in honor of him. The money goes to the school that he went to. So check it out, donate. We're going to be streaming throughout the weekend. You can donate money to make us do nonsense, which is part of this. So we're going to be playing 40K games on stream, but there's like, donate money, we lose a command point. That'd be really rough if we were about to interrupt or something. So there's a whole
Can
bunch.
we donate money to make you say Death Guard are better than Blood Angels?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay,
You totally do that.
We'll be clipping that.
Yeah. Oh, go for it. Yeah, you can do all sorts of stuff. There's like donation like points where we end up doing challenges. I think one of them is where the teams have to play tug of war against each other, but over a pool. So like the team that loses gets slid into the pool. So there's like all sorts of like nonsense and fun stuff that goes into it on the viewer side, but on the like us side, we're just gonna be playing games, doing stuff, raising money for charity. It's a one-day event. So check it out.
Are you gonna be having a poll to determine which army you're not playing at that one as well?
I tried my best, but I was hamstrung by Games Workshop and model availability of all things. Unlucky. Anyway, that's
Thanks.
the thing.
Thanks to Nurgle Matt for donating. That's amazing. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, thanks, bro.
So now do we want to do our announcement? Who wants to do the announcement?
I'll
Is it
do
gonna
the
be
announcement.
Oh, good, Innes, thank Christ.
The man in charge.
I'm
Scottish
gonna
King.
wing it off the top of my head though. So
You have a pre-written thing where you could just
I'm
read
not
it.
reading that. No.
What a hero.
All right, lads. It is with some sadness that we are announcing that this is going to be the last episode of 40K Fight Club that we're doing. We're going to be leaving the Best in Faction, the Best in Tabletop Network, and we're going to be going on to our own project, which we'll have some information on soon. I think you might have noticed Stat Check in the chat. That's going to be our new home. We're going to be moving on to doing everything ourselves. We have some great ideas, and we really look forward to bringing that to you. But we don't feel like the here is the best place to do that. We aren't leaving the network because we fought a fallout with anybody. That's why we're still here doing a show to say that we're leaving, and we didn't just vanish and make an Irish goodbye. We still wish the guys all the best. We're really thankful to Colin for bringing us all together and for giving us the opportunity to get started and for helping us out for the first 5.5, 6 months of the project. And we really look forward to seeing what Colin does with this slot, because they're going to be looking at introducing a new show that covers the same kinds of topics that we do in a very different way. But I really look forward to seeing what goes there, because I know the guys that are doing this really, really care about doing it and really want to do it well. But we think that we can do something different ourselves, and we want to make a different product to what it is we're making just now. And we really hope that you guys are interested in that and come and join us at our new home at StatCheck. You will be able to find that on the YouTube. That is in the chat. It's just youtube.com/statcheck, I think, but we'll figure that out later. We'll do a full announcement properly when we have more details to share with you. We are really thankful for the opportunity we've had here, and we've really enjoyed doing it. We really enjoyed doing the live streams, and the disruption to my sleep schedule that has in no way contributed, because I think we're sticking with a similar time slot, so I'm not even getting away from this bit.
You don't get to run away, no.
I don't get to run away, no. We're going to be doing that with Jeremy, Curie, and Cliff as well are going to be joining us, and we're going to be doing a whole new set of things. What we can promise you on that front is similar content to what we've been doing now, but not the same. We'll be doing for a different show format, and we're also going to be doing a bunch of bonus content, because all of us have some ideas for stuff we want to make that we think we can platform in a better way than what we have the opportunity to do now, in a way that we have more control over, and that's what we're looking for. We're not falling out with the people guys. We'll still be sticking around on the Discord and all that, so you'll still be able to chat with us, all the usual places. But we're just going to have our own home now, and we're really looking forward to that. And we're really excited. So, and we hope you guys all are too.
Yeah. Just as a brief preview of some of the stuff that we're going to do just because we're here and you guys might be interested. We are going to be doing some more stuff with the stats side of things. We're going to be moving Stat Check to its own website with the meta dashboard, and we're going to be adding some more stats analysis and other analytics to it. If you guys are interested in it, part of the reason that we're leaving is to tilt even more into the statistics, which we thought we can really only do independently. But the show, and there will be more short and long form content around stats analysis, and more content by Anthony, Innes, and I, as well as by Jeremy and Cliff. So there'll just be more of us.
Less Anthony-based stats content.
Yes, well,
That
mostly
is what
because
we can't promise.
mostly what will happen if we try to have Anthony do stats is his brain will start to leak out of his ears. There will be steam. You'll hear
Yeah.
gears crunching.
Do you guys have the quote from that one time Nathan tried to show me a spreadsheet where I was like, "Be gone, demon man," or something like that?
Yeah, we can.
Nobody has that.
Does somebody want to drop something in there for Chris so he can subscribe to the Stat Check as well?
Stat Check will probably do that.
Yeah, YouTube, our alien robot helper will sort that for us.
Our AI entity.
But yeah, we're all really excited about it. We have a whole business plan full of content ideas, and I hope you guys will join us for our ride as independent content creators.
I'll shout out the one thing. I'm going to host a game show for 40K. I really look forward to that.
Yes.
Because that's the one thing that I was like, I can't wait to do this. He can't make the link work because he probably doesn't have the rights to post it. Can you post it in the backstage, and and Anthony can chuck it in chat?
Yeah, using my infinite power.
Your admin power, I think, is actually the technical term.
Those are the same thing. I work in IT. Be nice to your IT admins, people. They will break your life if you're mean to them.
Be nice to all of your admins. Like anybody in administration, you should just be nice to, because they have all the keys to power.
In fact, I would say be nice to everyone.
Nope.
No.
No?
Especially not Nathan. If you have any complaints, get in his DMs.
You can DM me with all of your complaints. I will direct you to our patron, and you can pay me money to complain to me.
That's true.
That's what I'm going to say.
If you would like to continue supporting the best in tabletop guys, which you absolutely should, you should keep checking them out. That is youtube.com/c/best-in-tabletop and patreon.com/best-in-tabletop. The guys are still doing a bunch of fantastic stuff, a bunch of fantastic work, and I really look forward to seeing it. All the guys at Frontiers and Chasing the Narrative and Next Generation and the other, is there another show?
The OGs.
The OGs, yeah, the regular guys. I kind of just had them as the best in tabletop network guys. All the original shows will still be running exactly as normal, and we really look forward to seeing all that they continue to do. Those guys are getting better every day. Alex just won a tournament in Korea. Tyler and Lucas and Nick have all been getting fantastic results at events up in the coast they're on, west coast. They've all been getting better and better. Maybe. So they'll just keep dropping. They're going to just keep getting better and better, and I can't wait to see what all those guys do. And we'll be along for the ride as supporters now. We'll be sticking around in the Patreon because we love everything these guys do still. We just want to move a little differently.
And I will say, Jonathan Slade Johnson, it's actually Frontiers that is now the best show on the network. Sorry, the Next Generation.
Frontiers got burned by us so many times that it turned them into a diamond or whatever.
Yes, the amount of sheer pressure from all of our insults has crafted them into a diamond.
Yeah. Dennis doesn't believe.
They were always great. Come on, just believe in them.
They were a rough diamond before, and we just polished them. You guys are
so harsh to poor Alex and the other guys.
Oh snap! Jeremy's here. Hi, Jeremy. Love that guy. That was like my favorite opponent at the Maryland Open.
You seem to love everybody except like 3 people at this. So.
Yeah, I like lots of people. Most of the dudes I meet in 40K are really awesome.
Also, just as a piece of quick advice, we will be here next week just on our own YouTube channel at the same time.
Oh, will we? Nobody told me that.
Yeah.
We did tell you that. You agreed to it in the Discord.
That's also true.
You did, in fact, agree to it in the Discord.
Yeah, probably. That doesn't mean I remember it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm reminding you now that next Tuesday, we will be doing this again until we figure out the exact schedule for the content that we want to move forward.
Jonathan, we cannot make it 2 hours later. I will die.
Just to make Innes suffer.
You live in Sweden. How is that better for you?
It's better for him because it's worse for you.
No, Chris, you cannot get into the mysterious Discord. The mysterious Discord doesn't exist yet. So
that's not true.
We do have a mysterious Discord.
We have a mysterious Discord. We don't have the mysterious Discord.
Oh, that's
There's a few mysterious Discords.
Ooh, am I not? I'm probably not in one of them, to be
You're
honest.
in quite a
No,
few
you're
of
in,
them.
you're in all of them.
All right, okay. Is it
All but
Cliff's?
one.
Cliff's the boss now, right? So we just have to have the one where we shit talking.
You're
we
not
have to- we
wrong.
have to just
Cliff
remove
is
Cliff.
basically the boss now.
Cliff is definitely the most adult person. Like you could
Ever, yeah.
Voltron our 4 adult levels together, and we would still be less adult than Cliff.
Yeah, I had to meet a politician today. That's pretty adult.
How'd that go?
But
It
did you
went
have
really well, actually, but it wasn't
Nice.
fun.
You didn't have to get money out of that politician, though.
No, I did not. Chris, you can't appeal to authority.
Yeah,
But
that
if
only works for
you,
Steve Scotland.
I will
No,
say,
it doesn't.
Chris, if you send me a message, I'll make sure that the Discord stuff works for you.
That seems good.
Because there is a
We can add
different
him into the
Discord.
chat room where it's just him.
Just him and us. That is your Discord benefit.
It's just Chris doing the like Travolta. Like
Nick, we are
Nick,
still going
yeah.
to be in the Best in Tabletop Network Discord. We are not leaving the community. We do still love the Best in Tabletop Network community. We just want to make content on our own in a different way, on kind of our own terms.
yeah, we're
and
literally all
frankly,
patrons.
there was no way we weren't leaving on amicable terms because I refused to give up small block gang.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the number one thing. Is the,
Also, True Peter, you can
Yeah,
come to the Discord and
guys
not be responsible.
You guys can have Peter Unchained in our Discord,
Right.
unshackled.
Yeah. We will, in fact, if you join our
we
Discord, we
want?
will name you Peter Unchained Venner. Then
Yeah,
Or
Unchained
chained,
the
if that's what
Talk.
you're into.
it's true. If you're into it, we'll put you
Yeah,
in
well,
chains
whatever
or
you want,
unchain
Peter.
All right, folks, we are going to stop there for the main episode. Thank you, everybody, for 20 episodes of listening to our ramblings and also our Not Fight Club episodes. We thank you and love you all for giving us the opportunity to continue doing this. And we are going to take a 10-minute break where we'll take some questions from the listeners, and then we'll be back for the bonus round, for the last final bonus round. And then you can join us next week here on our own show, Stat Check, for episode 1. Episode 1, I didn't hear no bell, I think is what we're calling it.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, folks, thank you very much. And we're gonna stop there. Oh, and one last thing. Thank you. Massive thanks to Tyler, our editor, for the last 20 episodes, for putting up with having to listen to our voice
For so many
an
hours.
insane amount of time.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I don't understand what that would do to a person's mental state.
That's probably fine. Getting you to a
so yeah.
reasonable speed is like 30% of his job.
So thank you, Colin. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you to everybody in the community who has supported us on this journey and who continues to support us on the journey. We are deeply appreciative of the opportunity we have, and we look forward to doing more.
Woo.